Show on ESPN Radio.
ESPN Radio. What's up, nerds? ESPN Plus, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80, and on your smart speaker. Boy, what's the expression? You just can't win for losing or lose for winning. I never understood it. It doesn't make sense. I get it now. New York Jets, help me understand it. I appreciate that. They even lose at losing. They can't even win at losing, the New York Jets. I'm going to get into that in a little bit. You can reach me at 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. The Max Kellerman Show is presented by Progressive Insurance. All guests join me on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. By the way, New York, 888-729-3776. You can call in to vent about the Jets today. Raj, I'm going to take calls. Raj, my producer in L.A., I'm in New York. This is COVID time, so this is the way we do radio right now. We throw those Jets calls up on the line. I'll take Jets calls in the A block. The Max Kellerman Show is presented by Progressive Insurance. All guests join me on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. You think Tom Brady and the Bucs actually got a scare yesterday? Does Tom Brady deserve credit for coming back on the Falcons, or, it's Atlanta? You're down a couple of scores against Atlanta. You got them right where you want them. Not just Brady, by the way. Be a part of Max Kellerman Nation on the Dr. Pepper call-in line. ESPN Nation is presented by Dr. Pepper. The college football season's heating up, and so is your favorite Dr. Pepper-loving college football town, Fansville. Head to a store near you to treat your inner college football fan to an ice-cold 20-ounce Dr. Pepper today. But first, it's time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Brees was back, but the Chiefs win again. 9th in a row for the Chiefs. Remember early in the season, if you have been listening the whole time, Chiefs been number one in my power rankings, as they say, since day one. Just recall last year's playoffs. If you did power rankings every week after the playoffs, Chiefs get the bye, and then they're down to Houston. They're down to Tennessee. They're down to San Francisco. All they did was win the Super Bowl. But if you said, are they the most dominant team after? No. You wouldn't have them number one in your power rankings. That's the Chiefs. And so, once again, it was a one-score game. They won by a field goal. It's a little deceptive, that score. It was not quite as competitive as that, in fact. They won their 9th in a row now, 40-30, since they're 40-32. Lost to the Raiders. Of loss they avenged. And they moved into an NFL best position, 13-1 record. No, they were already in the best position. They've also won all 8 road games this season, although road wins are less uncommon. They're more common this year because fans aren't there, obviously, and you can hear the cadence on the road and stuff like that. Let me say something. Drew Brees, a lot of people say was rushed back. He shouldn't have played against the Chiefs. I totally disagree. We argued about it on First Take today. Drew Brees had to come back against the Saints against the Chiefs if he could play. Number one, you want to be the number one seed in the NFC because you get that bye in the first round. That is incredibly important. I've gone through the math in the past. If you're 80% likely to win in the first round and 60% in the next round, you're like, oh, good. Oh, we're going to win in the first round. Probably going to win in the second round, too. You know what your odds are to win both? 48%. You got to multiply them. So you're under 50-50 to win those 2 games. You get the bye in the first round. Now your odds to win that second game, to get to the conference championship, 60%. From 48 to 60%. From less likely than likely to more than likely. To more likely than unlikely. That's huge. But number 2, and this may be even bigger for the Saints, or at least as big. It's one thing to play better at home because you're in a climate-controlled environment in a dome. It's because that translates no matter where you go, even if, it's good weather, but it's not the dome. It's not your house, right? It's not perfectly climate-controlled, let alone the hometown fans. It's another thing to go from that to the frozen tundra with a trip to the Super Bowl on the line, try to beat Aaron Rodgers in those conditions. If you are the Saints, you absolutely do not want to have to go to Green Bay in the playoffs. And yet, they really may have to. They may have to. And that's what, but look, you have to give it your best shot. So did Taysom Hill give you your best shot? I don't think so. You can point to the record of Drew Brees' backups in recent years. What is it now, 8-1 or something like that? They're not better off without Drew Brees. Lots of things can explain that. Small sample size, you know how it is when a star goes down, everyone else feels like they have to step up over small windows. Players can do that. They can run on adrenaline and, but they're not better off without Drew Brees. And by the way, even if Drew Brees looked confused by the defense at time, didn't look so mobile, you got to get his feet wet on the way to the playoffs. They're going to be competing for a Super Bowl. And by the way, it did wind up being a one field goal game. When they were in the red zone, Taysom Hill still ran it in. And by the way, who wasn't playing? We still haven't seen this Saints team operate with their full complement of weapons. Not for very long. There was no Michael Thomas. Remember the dime to Emmanuel Sanders down the sideline? It's nice, right? Because look at this. Drew Brees has a number 2 receiver. He's never had that, really. Kamara's been his second best receiver. Kamara's the running back. And one of the best in the business, but still, it says something if your running back is your second best receiver. Well, but you have Emmanuel Sanders now, and now you don't have your number 1 guy. Now Michael Thomas, who's an all-time great, by the way. He's all-time great. No Michael Thomas. So without his number 1 receiver, coming back from a punctured lungs and like 11 fractured ribs, against the best team in the world, the defending Super Bowl champs, and off to a slow start, right, offensively at least, they still only lost by a field goal. You can't look at what the result was and then retroactively you go back and go, see, they shouldn't have started him. No, they should have started him. It didn't work out, but it wasn't the wrong decision. Here's Sean Payton, of course, Saints head coach after the game.
Offensively, we didn't start real well, and so it's hard to just point to one position, but I felt like our third down numbers weren't good enough today. I didn't feel like we ran the ball efficiently when we tried. Give Kansas City credit. We battled back in the game, but you've got to be better on third down. And when you're not, you don't have those attempts. You don't have the snaps, the time of possession, all the things you need against a good offense like that. We talk about time of possession in a game like this, and that includes converting third down. So overall, offensively, we weren't very sharp.
If I were a Saints fan, I'd be buoyed by this. Drew Brees coming back not playing very well, no Michael Thomas, against the Chiefs, and you lose by a field goal. Like, for people writing off the Saints now, Saints could easily be in the Super Bowl this year, and if you're in it, you got a chance to win it. That was Straight Talk Wireless, no contract, no compromise. New York Jets, hold on. 888 say ESPN. Hey, Jets fans. There was a topic Stephen A. and I did on First Take a while ago. What was the dumbest play of that weekend? It was between Greg Williams' play call that got him fired, and the Falcons letting the Cowboys onside kick bounce around as though it was a punt. That, both of those plays were idiotic, right? It was weird because the Falcons, it was contagious. How do 5 guys all mistake what's going on at the same time? Versus Greg Williams, it's the only thing you could do. You give up a completion, it doesn't matter. Just don't let anyone get behind the defense, right? You can't sell out. You can't go, anyway, the point is, that was a good contest of stupidity. What's the bigger, dumb move of the weekend? Was it Carson Wentz saying that if he's not going to start, he wants out of there? Some other team is going to start him? He has a movable contract? Or was it the Jets winning? Why would you? If you're the Jets, where do you think you're going this season? What are you playing for? You think Adam Gase is going to keep his job? Do you want him to keep his job? You just gave up the number 1 overall pick? Why? For what? I mean, the Rams, look, L.A., the Rams fell into a trap. And the reason I think the Rams are not ready to win a Super Bowl this year is they're susceptible to it. I think the Niners, even though it's a divisional game, was sort of a trap game. And I think this Jets loss was a trap game loss. I mean, a trap game. The Jets shouldn't be able to trap anybody, right? But in this case, the Rams are taking some things for granted. And that tells me they're not ready yet. I think L.A. is good. I don't know if the Rams are good enough to win the whole thing right now based on what I'm seeing in games like this. But the Jets, look, you might like Sam Darnold. He's famously younger than Joe Burrow. right? Like Sam Darnold's young. He may have a good career. It ain't going to be with the Jets. Let me tell you, Jets fans, 888-SAY-ESPN. I'm going to get to you in a second. Let me tell you what you need at quarterback. It's the only kind of quarterback that'll work in that dysfunctional franchise. There are a few players that are going to be great independent of coaching or circumstance. How great they are may be dependent on that. Tom Brady was going to be great no matter where he went. It was in him. He wouldn't have been the GOAT without Belichick, right? There are a couple guys like that. Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, to one degree or another, these guys, they were going to be great. How great? Mahomes benefits from being with Andy Reid and all these receivers, of course. Aaron Rodgers, maybe he like now that he has LaFleur, maybe Mike McCarthy, it wasn't good for a while there at the end, right? But they're all going to be great. Most guys are not like that. You know, Alex Smith, he gets to the league. He has 3 offensive coordinators in 3 years, whatever it was. Oh, he's a first-round bust. Well, maybe he's a number 1 overall pick, but not a first-round bust. Alex Smith, a very good quarterback. He needed some stability. He needed to be in the right situation. We saw this with Nick Foles. Wow. Chip Kelly, 27 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. We saw it at Arizona. Then he goes to Jeff Fisher. Boy, Nick Foles is garbage. Then he gets back to the Eagles. Look at this. He won the Super Bowl MVP. Most players are like that. Jets can't have that kind of player. Jets cannot have a player, a B-plus quarterback, whose success is highly dependent upon his surroundings because they'll ruin him. The Jets need a surefire, even they can't screw this guy up type quarterback. Like a Trevor Lawrence or maybe a Justin Fields. They need a guy like that. In fact, see what I'm saying? They need a number 1 overall pick. They need a surefire. That guy can't be bad. But they'd rather beat the Rams for one regular season win this year. Shrewd, Jets, shrewd. Crawdaddy in New York. You're on the Max Kellerman Show, ESPN Radio.
What's going on, man? Listen, I am not mad at the Jets for winning. I'm mad at the Rams for not beating them. They had so
yeah,
much.
Right. That's a better way to put it.
They had so much to play for, right?
Yeah.
And they lose to the Jets.
Yeah.
Dude,
by the way, Crawdaddy is right in New York. That's absolutely right. By the way, that's a brilliant. That might be the first brilliant point I've heard from a caller on this show. That's a brilliant point. Don't get mad at the Jets for winning. You're supposed to compete. Jets fans, you should be mad at L.A. And in L.A. right now, you know what I'm talking about because you are mad at your team. But Jets fans should also be mad at the Rams. What the hell are you doing losing to the Jets? They're of course they're going to compete. NFL players are not just go, well, the team needs a draft pick next year. Let's try not to make the play. But how do the Rams allow the Jets to beat them? Oh, that's a great point. Dino in the Bronx, you're on the Max Kellerman Show, ESPN Radio.
Yo, Max, you think the Jets are really that bad, or you think they're all right? Because they almost beat the Raiders too.
Yeah, I think they're really that bad. An NFL team, you play 16 games or whatever, 13 games so far. 13 or 14 now for the Jets. 14 games. You play 14 games. You're going to have a couple of days where you come close. There are professionals on the field. Sam Darnold was a high first-round pick. In many seasons, many drafts, Darnold would have gone first. He didn't go first. It was atypical that a team had the guts to take a shorter quarterback who didn't check all the boxes like Baker Mayfield. At the time, I thought that was the right pick, and then I wasn't so sure, and now maybe it looks like it was again. But usually a guy like Darnold, he checks all the boxes. He has size. He has athletic ability. He can throw. He's accurate enough. He's a leader. Check, 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 check. So they have some players on the team. Of course, they're going to come close to beating a team. The Raiders are not great. They're okay. They're a 500 team. They're kind of an average NFL team. So the fact that the Jets came close to almost beating an average NFL team one time, and they got a win against the Rams. No, that's why the previous caller, I'm forgetting his name already, was absolutely right. If you're a Jets fan right now, you should be as angry at L.A. as L.A. is at the Rams right now. In fact, if you're a Jets fan, you should be angrier. The L.A. had something to play for. What does L.A. need? They got Jared Goff, who was the number 1 overall pick in the draft. They have a great young coach. They have sick talent on the defense, including one of the greatest defenders who ever lived in his prime. I'll say the greatest defensive tackle I've ever seen. In his prime, in Aaron Donald. And arguably, Donald's in the conversation like you can't say he's better than Patrick Mahomes, but is he as good at his position as anyone is at theirs or better? Probably the answer in the NFL right now. I'm trying to think. Is there anyone? No, I would say Mahomes at quarterback, Donald at defensive tackle, and it's unclear, in fact, who's better for their position. That is, and then they have other guys on defense. They have guys who can rush the passer. They have a shutdown corner. They got guys. How did they lose to the Jets? News from Max Kellerman Nation. Dino just hit us up on the Dr. Pepper call-in line to suggest, Dino from the Bronx, that maybe the Jets are better than we think because they almost also beat a 500 team at one point this season. Meantime, after a slow start, Brady and the Bucs rally for a win against the Falcons. He now has 7 career comebacks when trailing by 17 or more points, which ties with Peyton Manning and Phillip Rivers, actually, for the most in NFL history, per the Elias Sports Bureau. Here is Tom Brady, the GOAT, on his thoughts on his latest comeback win.
Yeah, it was great, poised by everybody, and everybody hung in there. It got off to a tough start, but found a way to win. And defense came up huge, made some big stops. Offensively, everyone made a bunch of different plays, and it was a great win for our team, and we're gonna have to keep building on it.
Look, I mean, it was against the Falcons. They're known for collapsing, not just against Tom Brady. So, like Falcons fans, they're up a couple scores. They're like, "Oh, they have us just where they want us." It was a good comeback. Tom Brady has an excellent team around him, and he's showing that gives you a premium over just an average quarterback. He's better than that. He's not elite anymore, but he's really doing something at the age of 43. Of course, let's keep in mind, with Bill Belichick last year and 0 offensive weapons, they won 12 games. That's more than he's going to win this year with the Bucs. Meantime, Jalen Hurts makes a strong case to keep the Eagles' quarterback job in a loss. Hurts is made his second straight start in place of Carson Wentz, who'd been benched, threw 3 touchdowns, ran for another 20. It was a loss, 33-26 to Arizona, but he threw for 338 yards and rushed for 63. And he nearly had a comeback. It just fell short. Wentz, let me get into this for a second, because there are 2 different stories here, okay? Hurts and Wentz. But they both lead to the same place. Let's start with Wentz. I used to be super high on Wentz. I said he was the MVP in 2017 until he got hurt. But what has transpired over these last 2 seasons is unlike anything I've ever seen. Oh, and we've been through on the show his cataclysmic regression time and again, right? But Carson Wentz went to an altogether different level this weekend. It was so disappointing. Look, Adam Schefter reported, and so who's leaking that? The team is leaking this? And it seems like Wentz's side would leak this. That Wentz is unhappy being the backup. And wait for it, he's unhappy with how this season has unfolded and how the team has handled it. I mean, that's staggering, the gall of this guy. It's indefensible. The guy was statistically the worst starting quarterback in the entire league. Is Wentz kidding? He still has the most turnover-worthy plays in the whole league. You know that? He hasn't played in over 9 quarters. He's leading the league in turnover-worthy plays. So how's the season unfolded? Wentz, that you don't like. Is that a joke? People always talk about like being the consummate teammate. This is the opposite of that. It's Carson Wentz is the answer, the opposite of a consummate teammate. And by the way, if that absurdity of Wentz is not enough, he points this out right before Jalen Hurts is due to make his second start in the NFL. There's a pretty clear reason now why Wentz wanted to upend this start from Hurts, but I'm going to get to that in a second. Let's talk Jalen Hurts for a second. Last week, the Eagles jumped on the Saints early, right? There's no Drew Brees. And Hurts did a terrific job. He ran for over 100 yards. First start going up against the number 1 defense in football. And they won. But this week against Arizona, everything goes wrong to start the game. Hurts gets called for intentional grounding in the end zone, safety. Special teams has a punt blocked. Before you knew it, you look up 16-0. Eagles are going to get rolled, right? But then Hurts settles in. Did he roll over? Did he show character? He looks sensational. Let's be clear. He's a rookie making his second start. So it's possible that there's an element of fool's gold. But let's talk about what jumped out. Where Hurts really beat the Saints with his legs, because he ran for 106 yards, he threw the ball against Arizona yesterday in a way I didn't know was possible, especially this early in his career. He made every type of throw, and he was accurate again and again with the football. 24 for 44 altogether, 338 yards, 3 TDs, rushing for another touchdown, a quarterback rating over 102. So now in his first 2 starts, Hurts has thrown for 5 touchdowns with no interceptions. And Hurts gets all of this done with skill position players in an offensive line that all the Wentz apologists said were the reason Wentz was playing so terribly. It's not just the numbers he's putting up either. It's the way Hurts is doing it. His composure and leadership have been evident through these 2 games. After looking like the Eagles were going to get run out of the building, he rallied them all the way back. And by the way, he might have taken a lead if special teams could have converted the PAT, right? Hurts becomes the first Eagles quarterback to throw for 3 touchdowns in the first half. Listen to this. I'm going to go an extra 60 seconds, guys. Since Nick Foles in 2017. The first Eagles quarterback to complete 7 chunk plays, more than 20 yards, since Nick Foles in 2018. What's more shocking was how he was doing it, because we knew he was an outstanding athlete. But he could place the ball, and that gets to something really interesting. And, you know, it's the reason I thought Peterson didn't bench Wentz earlier, and I'm going to get to that after the break. This is really interesting about Doug Peterson and what's going on with Wentz and Hurts. Meantime, something also happened in the NFL that hasn't happened since 2008. We're going to get to that, too. 'Twas the end of the year, and it's been less than fun, but as your business grows, you need to hire for 2021. Make hiring much faster and easier, most would agree, by going to ZipRecruiter.com/max to try ZipRecruiter for free. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter say they get a quality candidate within the very first day. Right now, you can try ZipRecruiter absolutely free at ZipRecruiter.com/had to say, and Cam Newton. Before I get to the Browns and Baker Mayfield and what their win against the Giants means, before I get to the New York Football Giants disappointing me, let me just tell you, I took you through so far Wentz, Hurts, and Peterson, because they're 2 different stories here, right? I'll catch you up real quick if you're just joining us. There's Wentz, who leaks to the press, apparently. Why would the team leak it? That he's not happy if he's backing up Hurts. He doesn't like the way the team's handled it. What? Worst statistical quarterback in football this year, starting quarterback in football. The most turnover-worthy plays in the league, in spite of not having played the last 9 quarters, right? I brought up the fact that not only was Hurts excellent running the ball 2 weeks ago, but yesterday, throwing the ball. And he did it after a disastrous start. Everything that could go wrong would. He was down 16-0, but he persevered and he was accurate and excellent. And then I pointed out all these chunk plays he had and touchdowns, no interceptions, and how Wentz apologists were saying, well, he doesn't have the weapons, he doesn't have the offensive line. Well, okay, how come he's not turning the ball over like Wentz was? And he's throwing all these touchdowns. What about that? And these are the most that any quarterback has had for the Eagles, not since Wentz, since Foles in 17, since Foles in 18. Why is it that a 40-year-old quarterback on one leg, Josh McCown, can come in a playoff game and they lose by the same score that the Eagles lost to the same team in Week 12? What's going on here? Okay, so this is what it all leads me to, all right? Okay, that's what was most shocking, was where was I? Where Hurts was doing it, right? This is what's really interesting. We believe that the reason that Peterson didn't bench Wentz earlier, at least I believe this, whether or not I was joined by other people, but I think generally people thought that Hurts couldn't be showing anything in practice. If he was showing anything, the way there would be a point of emphasis on ball security all week, one would imagine, from the Eagles, and then Wentz does the same stuff again and again. The worst sacks you could take, the worst interceptions, right? It actually appears, I think it was the opposite. Hurts must have been flashing at practice, at least enough that Peterson in the front office felt there was a legitimate chance that had to translate to actual games. That's why they drafted him in the second round. Do you remember when I actually had to sit here and listen to people tell me, these fools tell me, beat me in the head with, well, they're drafting because Wentz is injury. What? You got a veteran signal caller on the free agent, off the scrap heap to back a guy up. You draft a quarterback in the second round instead of trading for a wideout or trading up in the draft to get a better wideout. When you need help in that area, you're only doing that as a hedge against the guy you got. You think maybe he's not the guy, and you've identified a franchise quarterback. By the way, all Jalen Hurts has done is succeed for Nick Saban and succeed for Lincoln Riley, right? Like, what? Dude is blue chip. But how does that translate to the pros, right? He can run. Can he throw? Yeah, he can. I think the reason they held him back was not that he wasn't showing anything in practice. That if they showed something and he even flashed in the game, they have an even bigger Carson Wentz problem, which they have now. Look what happened. Carson Wentz, the day of the second game, that this kid is starting, Hurts is starting. Releases, he's unhappy, he wants to be traded. They waited forever before sitting Wentz. I mean, because there's no way that Hurts was showing nothing in practice and played like that. Not a chance. Zero chance. He had to be showing something. The other person who clearly knew Hurts was showing something in practice was Carson Wentz. Why else would Wentz leak the story on the day that Hurts is starting to try to upend the team's performance? He knew that Hurts had the possibility of this performance in him. And don't tell me the Eagles leaked this, by the way, because it actively makes their situation worse by making an immovable contract in Carson Wentz. This is what they were worried about. Harder to move. By the way, Wentz seems to be delusional enough to think that there is a market for his services at that price. Now listen to this. Here's what's really going to happen now, and this is what's nuts. Think of all the stuff that the Eagles still need because Carson Wentz can't live up to the contract, right? He needs a defense. He needs all these weapons, which, by the way, his replacement quarterbacks don't, apparently. They're not going to be able to draft those guys because they're going to have to use draft capital to get someone to take Wentz's putrid contract. And this finally leads me to Doug Peterson. It finally leads me to Peterson because we've all been killing Doug Peterson this season. There was an argument I was making last week, in fact, that, the team functions better without Wentz, right? And we know what happened in 2017, outduels Tom Brady in the Super Bowl and wins MVP. That should be an anomaly. I mentioned it's not. Next year, they're sub 500, dead in the water, 5-6. Foles takes over. They catch fire, make the playoffs, beat the Bears at Soldier Field, who were one of the favorites in the NFC with that defense. And by the way, if Alshon Jeffrey, doesn't have the ball, a perfectly thrown ball, go through his hands, they probably beat the Saints on the road too. And then in last year's playoffs, I mentioned, he gets concussed by Clowney on a questionable hit, but they didn't get destroyed without him. And basically, McCown did whatever, he brought him to the same result Wentz was going to bring him to, or did bring him to in Week 12 against the same team. So here it is. We're killing Peterson. But at what point do we conclude that this team functions no worse and often better simply when Wentz isn't their quarterback, no matter who else is? So what does that mean about Doug Peterson, who's on the hot seat, who I argue this team needs to get rid of, and he's coaching like he wants out? He appears, Peterson, to be an excellent coach when he's not saddled with Carson Wentz, as he has demonstrated an ability to make it work with whoever is playing as long as it's not Wentz. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I rest my case. Pats out of the playoffs for the first time since 2008. That's a streak of 19 straight winning seasons snapped. Now, before I get to anything, give Brady his credit. I know Brady never gets enough credit. I'm the one person giving Brady credit. As much as I point out, hey, Belichick won 10 games with Matt Castle. He was 11-5 altogether that season. They missed the playoffs. And he doesn't have Brady again. They missed the playoffs again. A team that literally never missed the playoffs with Brady. Didn't have him twice. And even though they were okay, they were competitive this year, and they double-digit wins with Matt Castle, they didn't make the playoffs either year. That's not coincidental. Brady's value is pretty obvious. But here's Bill Belichick and his reaction. Because the question now is Cam an NFL starter? Or is this the end of Cam as an NFL starter? Here is Bill Belichick's reaction to the Patriots being eliminated from the playoffs.
Disappointed, but we didn't deserve to win today. So
does it, I know it's hard to maybe look ahead already, but does it change your message at all with your players that the playoffs are officially off the table?
No, not too much.
Oh, it's so good. Cam Newton is not done as an NFL starter, I don't think, and I don't know if he's done in New England either. Let's examine what actually happened with Cam. He is a quarterback who never had a great completion percentage. That's not, there are lots of different ways to achieve a result, right? What we notice is if you can't be a pocket passer, you don't win the Super Bowl normally. But pocket passing is a means to an end. It's not the end itself. The end is winning. And Cam was a winning enough quarterback, and he was by far the best player on the team, by far. Had no his best receiver was his tight end, Greg Olsen. And his best running back was him, Cam Newton. And he took a team to the Super Bowl and was MVP of the league and was voted by his peers best player in the game. Now, he was inconsistent after that, sometimes making the playoffs, sometimes missing them, but generally a better than average NFL quarterback and sometimes a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback. Just not an MVP every year. But then he was having a really good season with Norv Turner as his offensive coordinator. Maybe even a better season in certain ways than his MVP year. And he got hurt. And that was the end of that season. He played a little bit hurt, and his stats went down, and the team started losing. And then it turns out, no, that's a catastrophic injury. He's going to miss a season, right? Okay. So is there reason to believe he could be successful on an NFL level? When last healthy with some continuity on the team he'd always played for, he was quite good. He goes to the Patriots. The Patriots have no weapons. I mean, Brady looked like a middle-of-the-pack quarterback last year, put up those kind of stats, missed the receivers every way you could, and now this year looks much better because he has weapons, right? Didn't have them on the Patriots. Neither did Cam. But the difference was Brady had continuity for 2 decades. Cam is a brand new situation. So rehabilitating from a catastrophic injury, brand new situation, no receivers, guys off the defense to start the season, Patrick Chung and Hightower, Gilmore in and out of the lineup, their best defensive player, with injury. Cam, by the way, COVID hits. They can't practice in the preseason. Brand new team, but you can't practice with them. The facilities get shut down in the middle of the year. Can't practice with guys. Belichick can't do what he needs to do with a less than talented team, right? Cam has COVID. Can't play. When he comes back, he's in a fog for a couple of weeks, and later on points to that. And even Belichick tapping him on the sidelines. It's okay. He wasn't right. All of that. He's 2 games under 500 and 2 plays away from being over 500. 2 plays from reversing the record. 6-8 becomes 8-6 against the Bills and the Seahawks. Lots of quality wins. I don't think Cam is done as an NFL signal. Max Kellerman Show on ESPN Radio, ESPN Plus, the ESPN app, SiriusXM Channel 80, and on your smart speaker, you can reach me at 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. Giants fans, I'm just disgusted. No Doubt is brought to you by My Computer Career, training for a better life. I'm going to get right down to it.
We got you covered.
Let me tell you what I think it is.
No doubt.
All right, what we got?
All right, well, this week, and you heard a lot about it, man, but the college football playoffs got it right, leaving Texas A&M out.
Nah, son. I think they got it wrong. I know they didn't play as many games, right, as Notre Dame. But Notre Dame's win against Clemson was BS. They didn't have their starting quarterback. When Clemson got their starting quarterback, they beat the brakes off Notre Dame. Meantime, Texas A&M, their loss to Alabama was like, they played Alabama tough. At least the Florida team that Texas A&M beat played Alabama tough. It's very, very close. I would make the argument, given the fact that it occurred toward the end of the year versus Texas A&M losing toward earlier in the season. I'd put Texas A&M in against Notre Dame. I don't think they deserve to get in the way they got beaten late in the season.
All right, check it out. Max Kellerman has all his holiday shopping done.
No doubt.
Yeah. Right.
Because I do Hanukkah, Raj. It's all done.
All right.
See what I'm saying?
I thought you did Kwanzaa.
So yeah, it's all done. And by the way, I don't go holiday shopping. I have other people do that for me.
Okay.
Raj. The kids, listen. When my kids open gifts, I'm just as surprised by what they get as they are. I'm like, oh, look at that. Oh yeah, I chose. You like that I got you that
surprise for the whole family. Surprise for the whole family. Hey, check it out. No longer holding their fate for the number 1 pick, the Jets must stick with Sam Darnold.
Nah, son. No, because Trevor Lawrence isn't the only quarterback in the draft. It may not even be the best one. Look, the bottom line is about Sam Darnold. He's a very good quarterback. He has the chance to be a good quarterback. He's still very young. He's a very young quarterback who has a chance to still be good. Not on the Jets. The Jets will ruin him. They'll ruin his career. The Jets need a quarterback who will be great no matter where he goes. Very few guys are like that, but there is belief that Trevor Lawrence is one of those guys. And the Jets need to either get him or a guy maybe as good as him in Justin Fields, right? You need to target a guy like that.
All right. Hey, Seahawks got the win yesterday, but, man, they got no shot at the Super Bowl if Russell Wilson isn't playing at an MVP level.
No doubt. Russell Wilson either can win shootouts or they don't win. And by the way, they don't have to all be high-scoring games, but Russell Wilson must be the best version of himself, or the Seattle Seahawks have zero chance to win a Super Bowl. Speaking of which, not if Russell Wilson doesn't play well. Saints making the right decision starting Drew Brees? Or did they make it against the Chiefs? Max Kellerman Show, ESPN Radio.
This is the Max Kellerman Show. Max Kellerman Show on ESPN Radio.
The Max Kellerman Show on ESPN Radio, ESPN Plus, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80, and on your smart speaker. Tried to warn you, LA. Don't get caught looking past the Jets. It shouldn't be a trap game, but great call in the first hour of the show out of New York. Caller said, I'm not mad at the Jets for winning. He's a Jets fan. I'm mad at the Rams for losing. How do you let the Jets beat you? In LA, you got to be more upset about that even than the guy from New York. I'm going to get into the problem with the Rams. I hate to say it, but I've come to a conclusion. I've come to a royal conclusion. You can reach me at 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. The Max Kellerman Show is presented by Progressive Insurance. Progressive Home Quote Explorer is changing the way you buy home insurance. Now you can go online, get a custom quote, and save both time and money. Learn more at Progressive.com. So, look, Sean Payton plays Drew Brees because Drew Brees was good to go. He looked confused by the defense. He didn't look especially mobile. He's 100 years old. He's recovering from 11 fractured ribs and a punctured lung. Not exactly a wet noodle for an arm, but it ain't exactly a cannon either anymore. Not that it ever really was his calling card. Accuracy is Drew Brees' game, right? But he didn't look great, and they lost to the Chiefs by a field goal, in a game where he didn't have Michael Thomas. I'm telling everyone, forget about yesterday or what you don't like, what you saw from the Saints. The Saints are live to win the Super Bowl. Very. They have a defense that, by the way, that's the crazy thing about the Chiefs. Look, I'm picking the Chiefs to win against the NFL. Not to win as an odds-on favorite. I give them the best chance to win, even though no one's 50-50 against the whole league. I'm saying the Chiefs are my favorites against everyone in the NFL. I think they're going to win the Super Bowl. I think it's better than 50-50 that the Chiefs win the Super Bowl. I'm very confident in the Chiefs. And yet, do the Saints have a shot? Yeah, they do. The Saints' defense, this is the crazy thing about the Chiefs. It looked like it was effective against the Chiefs early on. It was confusing Mahomes a bit. They were playing well, and yet you look up and you go, oh, damn, they're down how much already? Chiefs are tough. Mahomes is so good. Tyreek Hill is impossible. Travis Kelce's impossible. They lose Clyde Edwards-Helaire for the rest of the regular season, it seems, at least. They still have Le'Veon Bell. They'll be able to run. They'll be able to do a lot of stuff. But the reason I say the Saints are still dangerous is they have a really good defense, in fact. What happened against the Eagles notwithstanding, and they just played Kansas City. But for about a month there, they looked like they had the best defense in the NFL. So whether or not it's the best defense in the NFL, and you like the talent on the Bears and the Rams more than the Saints on the defensive side, but the Saints have a good defense. Whether or not you think it's top 3 even, it's a good defense. It's top half, probably top third of the league on any given Sunday. Brees, a lot of years, didn't have a good defense. Michael Thomas wasn't playing yesterday, but Michael Thomas, if he keeps this up, is going to the Hall of Fame. He's an all-time great receiver in his prime. Didn't have Michael Thomas yesterday. Emmanuel Sanders, for years, Drew Brees didn't have a number 2 receiver. They signed Emmanuel Sanders, who's still a good number 2 receiver. And Drew Brees dropped a dime to Sanders down the sideline to get him back in the game. But he's Drew Brees' lead receiver yesterday because Michael Thomas isn't playing. And Michael Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders missed time this year. Sanders had COVID at one point. No, and he has Kamara. Let me tell you something. I want to see this Saints team with Drew Brees, not just healthy, but with a couple games under his belt. I want to see the Saints team with a full complement of receivers, including Michael Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders, 1 and 2, and Kamara on the field with that defense. That team will be live. Don't get lulled into a false sense of security if you're in the NFC right now. The Saints, they ain't all that. Just wait. And you saw what they could do in the red zone with Taysom Hill. When Taysom Hill's on the field, what's going to happen? You could put him at tight end. You could put him as a fullback, a running back, a wideout. You could run a wildcat. He can just take the snap as an actual quarterback. Just because Taysom Hill's on the field, you don't know what's going to happen. Oh, they're going to try and run it in. Are you sure? Sean Payton after the game, Saints head coach.
Offensively, we didn't start real well, and so it's hard to just point to one position, but I felt like our third down numbers weren't good enough today. I didn't feel like we ran the ball efficiently when we tried. Give Kansas City credit. We battled back in the game, but you've got to be better on third down. And when you're not, you don't have those attempts. You don't have the snaps, the time of possession, all the things you need against a good offense like that. We talk about time of possession in a game like this, and that includes converting third down. So overall, offensively, we weren't very sharp.
Looks like the Saints aren't going to have a bye in the first round. Looks like the Saints, if they get that far, will have to travel to the frozen tundra to play the NFC Championship game. Both those things are very bad news for the Saints. Looks like the Saints don't have a quarterback on their roster, and they have 3 of varying degrees, a future Hall of Famer in Drew Brees, the best gadget player you ever want to see, and if that's all he is, and I think he's more than that, in Taysom Hill, and a former number 1 overall pick who led the league in yards passing last year in Jameis Winston. But they don't have Aaron Rodgers on the roster, not even if you combine the best attributes of all 3 of those guys. The Packers have that. And the Packers are going to have a bye likely in the first round. And the Packers are going to host the NFC Championship game if things stand like this. And they probably will, I think. But I would not count out the Saints. I think Drew Brees is so motivated right now. This is it. He's on the best team he's been on, I think, altogether, both sides of the ball, since the Super Bowl team. He's got everything he needs. He knows this is it. He's coming back from injury. So, in fact, in a perverse way, he's rested. Remember how he looked worn down at the end of seasons? He's going to warm up now by the playoffs. Saints are live. Meantime, the Bucs have a big rally against the Falcons. But everyone has a big rally against the Falcons. It was capped by Antonio Brown's first touchdown, by the way. Imagine that. What the NFC is thinking. Oh, wait. Excuse me. Oh, that's 2. All right, usually they come in 3s. This time it's 2. That's just what the rest of the league needs for Antonio Brown to get up in the mix, right? 46-yard touchdown reception from Tom Brady with 6:25 remaining. That sealed the comeback win for the Bucs. Well, that and the first down they picked up where it was like, wait, is that a first down? Okay, I guess it is. Not look. Yellow line didn't look like it was, but okay, they called it a first down. Game's over. Brady has now 7 career comebacks while trailing by 17 or more points, which ties him with Peyton Manning and Phillip Rivers for most of NFL history. But here's the thing. Is Tom Brady proving his point? He left Belichick. Belichick's 2 games under 500. Brady is looking at probably 11 wins this year. Could be 10, probably 11. I don't think it'll be 9. They have the Jets. No way Jets keep this up. But, oh no, they don't have the Jets. Pardon me. They have the Panthers and the Falcons again. At any rate, I'll tell you when Brady will have proved his point. Brady will have proved his point when I see him in the NFC Championship game. When Montana left the Niners and they went with Steve Young, and it's not like he made them trade Steve Young as Brady made them trade Garoppolo and nothing was the cupboard was bare. When Montana left the Niners, he went to the AFC Championship game with the Chiefs. Brady does that with the Bucs, I stand down. I was wrong. but he hasn't shown me that yet. He won 12 games last year with Belichick. He's at best going to win 11 this year with weapons everywhere you look. Marcus Spears joins us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Marcus, you there?
What's up, my brother?
What's going on? You tell me. Saints make the right move by starting Brees, yes or no?
Yeah, it was the right decision. I mean, hindsight, the fact that he came out healthy was the most important thing. I mean, the Saints know they're going to the playoffs. They know they're going to need Drew Brees to win a Super Bowl. I think you kill two birds with one stone. You get him in some real live action. You also are able to assess if you can really compete with Kansas City. And I think the Saints walked away from that game getting everything they wanted to get accomplished outside of winning the game, obviously. But, you know, just as much as Kansas City didn't have a few offensive linemen, you know, Michael Thomas makes a difference in that game for all intents and purposes.
Oh, does he ever?
Right.
Marcus, like, when is Drew Brees going to get, and Sean Payton for that matter, they don't seem to catch breaks, right? Like, they had calls go against them in recent playoff performances, but Brees looked old and tired in those games. He got a nice little rest. I mean, he was recovering, but it did mean less wear and tear in terms of NFL wear and tear on his body now heading into the playoffs. But he comes back finally. Their defense, except for last week, has been really good. He has a number 2 receiver finally. Everyone's healthy, and then no Michael Thomas. It's like they can't catch a break.
Can't catch a break, but I'll tell you what, I would leave that game against Kansas City with a lot of confidence because I feel like, you know, Kansas City has obviously lost the game this year. They've had some games that's been close, but we all got the feeling that it was pretty much dominated by Kansas City from the standpoint of, you know, how they won, whether that's last minute, whatever. We always stayed Patrick Mahomes with the ball. I felt like this Saints-Chiefs game was played pretty straight up. Like, it was a pretty good indication of where both of these teams are. Yes, Kansas City is better than the New Orleans Saints right now, and probably better than the New Orleans Saints when everybody is fully healthy. But that doesn't mean the Saints won't have guys that can make plays to change that game.
Know what reminds me of, Marcus? In 2007, the undefeated year for the Pats, Tom Coughlin and the Giants wrap up a wild card, right?
Yeah.
They're in.
Yep.
And everyone's like, just rest the guys. But they played New England on the last game of the season. And Coughlin felt it was important to play them straight up. Played all his starters, and they barely lost, but they took that to the Super Bowl with them where they met in a rematch and won as huge underdogs. And there was something about that game, like, on the one hand, the Chiefs, it looked like the Saints defense was doing a lot of good things. You look up and the Chiefs have a big lead. You're like, damn.
Yeah.
But the fact that Drew Brees coming back without his number 1 receiver was able to claw his way back into that game, I agree. I think the Saints actually made a statement. I haven't read that a lot this morning or this afternoon, but I think they made a statement.
I believe they did. I believe they made a statement without, you know, without 2 of the best players on either side of the ball, and then you got a 41-year-old quarterback coming back from fractured ribs, and you lose to Kansas City by 3, and you held Kansas City to 14 in the first half. So when you look at this defense, when you look at what you would expect Drew to be able to do once he gets his feet under him and gets fully back, and Michael Thomas is healthy coming into the playoffs, like, I don't know if anybody is as scary as the Saints are. I know what Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay are doing offensively. Defensively, they had a good showing against Carolina, but Saints ain't Carolina.
They're live, yeah.
Like, that's a...
Yeah, but, I mean, look, Green Bay is live, but so are the Saints. Marcus Spears on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Max Kellerman Show, ESPN Radio. Marcus, let me ask you something. What would you say about a teammate, a quarterback, who everyone's making apologies for? Oh, he doesn't have an offensive line. He doesn't have receivers. He can't move the ball. That's why he's turning the ball over. That's why he's sacked so much. That's why he's the most turnover-worthy plays even though in the league, even though he hasn't played in 9 quarters. What would you say about a guy like that, his character, as a leader, as a teammate, when someone else who was in the quarterback room finally gets to start, scores a major upset over those Saints, who are playing the hottest defense in the league, with his legs, comes back the next week, everything goes wrong for Jalen Hurts, early in the game, intentional grounding in the end zone of safety, a blocked punt. You look up at 16-0, they're down, but he's accurate all game, gets them back into the game. You never hear Jalen Hurts say anything bad about anyone, leak anything. He waited patiently. What would you say about a guy who decides to leak, it seems to me, on the day of Jalen Hurts' second start? That if I don't get to be a starter, I don't want to play anymore in this. What would you say about a guy like that if he was your teammate?
He's not built the right way, and I'm not going to follow him. Like, let's be honest, man. Like, this is not rocket science, Max. Like, a lot of people are going to point to the fact that, it's just about football. It's not. I mean, I've understood your point of that argument from the beginning. I hadn't always agreed that Carson Wentz was done and he didn't have a talent. But I definitely agreed that this locker room responded to Nick Foles better, and now it seems they responded to Jalen Hurts better. Now, a lot of that is potentially newness. But in this particular situation, you can't say that because they did it for Nick Foles twice. It happened twice from another quarterback. So there is something, obviously, that is a tremendous disconnect for Carson Wentz as far as guys showing the type of performance that they've been showing since Jalen has been inserted into the lineup. And then, too, like, Max, you can't be soft playing quarterback, bro. Like, you can't have be soft mentally. Like, that's a hard job. So the whole idea of, I don't like where I am. You made your bed. You created this. Like, there would be no Jalen Hurts if you played like Jalen Hurts is playing right now. We wouldn't be having this conversation. So, look, man, you know me. Boil it down to the simplest form. Carson Wentz didn't perform. Carson Wentz has a disconnect with the players in that locker room. Based off enough of a sample size between Nick Foles and Jalen Hurts, and a lot of the problems that you saw with the Philadelphia Eagles fell directly on Carson Wentz. Now, his apologists are
plus Marcus, where's homeboy think he's going? Who's going to take that contract?
Man,
what's going to happen now, which is messed up? The Eagles are going to have to spend enormous draft capital to get someone to take that contract because Wentz can't stay there. This is untenable. He's going to get his money, but he can't stay there. He doesn't want to stay there. You can't start him. He's unplayable right now. Hurts is showing you stuff. This is a nightmare for the Eagles, which makes me happy as a Giants fan. Of course.
It's a nightmare.
But let me.
It's a nightmare because you committed $100-something million. Like, this is
right.
So this is a part of that whole. It's
a good segue, Marcus.
Number one, you paying for what you think the guy is going to be, based off of either highlights or lowlights. And then when he turns out to be regular, like Carson Wentz, and when he turns out to be regular, like Jared Goff, it makes it more difficult for teams to try to.
You said the name, Jared Goff. That's what I wanted to get to.
Yeah.
The Cowboys tried to pay Dak Prescott. He didn't want the money, and now he's hurt. Right? The Rams did pay Jared Goff. Marcus, I'm looking at the Los Angeles Rams. They lose to the Niners. It's a divisional game, but the Niners are without their quarterback. They're the worst team in the division right now, and they're eliminated from the playoffs. They were on a hot streak. The Rams were beating good teams, looking really good. They lose to the Niners. Then they get their mojo back, right? And they lose to the New York Jets? Marcus, the Jets? I had a caller earlier say, I'm not even mad at the Jets, who was a Jets fan in New York. I'm mad at the Rams. How do you lose to this team? We're trying to get the number one, because the Jets got to compete. But how do you lose to them? And Marcus, I look at this team. I like McVay a lot. I think you got the right coach. The talent on the defensive side is there. You have offensive weapons. I'm looking at Jared Goff. He's paid like an elite quarterback, and he doesn't make the same mistakes that Wentz does. But, dude, he's like average. Is Goff better than average, Marcus?
I don't trust Jared Goff at all. I said that weeks ago. Like, if a game has to be determined by Jared Goff being, like, lifting his level of play and lifting the level of play of people around him in spite of coaching, in spite of what the tough situation is, I don't believe in Jared Goff in that regard. I think he can play when it's cozy and comfortable, when all of the plays are working, when Sean McVay is dialing people up wide open. I don't question his arm talent. I don't question that sometimes we've seen flashes of him having the ability to be a franchise QB. But there is nobody – well, I'm not going to say that. With myself, I don't trust Jared Goff to win no championship. I don't trust that if things go awry. Like 3 points in the Super Bowl was an indication. Like missing a deep pass down the middle of the field that was a touchdown is reminiscent of another guy that I don't trust, Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, these guys have to be
Well, I trust Garoppolo a little.
I don't. These guys have to be
That dude wins, Marcus. He wins everywhere. Come on. His one-loss record is ridiculous. That can't be an accident. But I agree, his talent is not pitched as high as some guys. See, that's the thing to me, Marcus. Goff, I look at Goff, I see talent, but I only see average results. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
With Garoppolo, I don't see Goff's talent, but I see better results.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it has to do with how good these coaches are. Like, even Jared Goff can justify, right? They 9-4. Sean McVay is the coach. I'm not terrible. I'm not doing anything above and beyond. But the expectation for you, for us, the way we look at it when we're talking about you, is to do that. Is to be the starting quarterback for a playoff team that say, it's no way in hell I'm going to allow us to lose to the Jets. Like, the fact that Jared Goff couldn't do that is more of an indictment on what he's done than all of the successful stuff. Like, you got arguably the best defense in the league. You got arguably two guys ball after catch or the most dynamic in Woods and Cooper Kupp. You have a backfield of guys that can run the football. Your offensive line may be, because Whitworth is out, may be a little change, but your offensive line is really good. Like Jared Goff, if he raised his level of play, if he was playing like a $100 million quarterback, we wouldn't have a conversation about if the Rams can win the Super Bowl or if they could do it. But nobody trusts Jared Goff. That's why we don't know what to say about the Los Angeles Rams at this point. Outside of the fact that they're a good team, but when it comes to them relying on their quarterback to do anything above and beyond extraordinary, nobody trusts him to do that.
Well, we know what to say about Marcus Spears. You can check him out on NFL Live. It's an excellent program, and Marcus is excellent on it. Brought to you by Shell. This show, Marcus Spears Just Now. Not that show. This one is brought to you by Shell V-Power Nitro plus premium gasoline. Is Trubisky, we talk about all the Carson Wentz handling things the wrong way. How about the way Trubisky handled his benching? Is he finally the quarterback the Bears wanted him to be? 'Twas the end of the year and it's been less than fun, but as your business grows, you need to hire for 2021. Make hiring much faster and easier, most would agree, by going to ZipRecruiter.com/max to try ZipRecruiter for free. 4 out of 5 employers who post ESPN Plus, the ESPN app, SiriusXM Channel 80, and on your smart speaker. Caller wants to know if the Dolphins are for real, huh? Get some calls, 888-SAY-ESPN, 729-3776. You can reach me there, 888-729-3776. At that number, Raj, is what I'm trying to say. That's where I can be reached, 888-SAY-ESPN. The Max Kellerman Show is presented by Progressive Insurance. Mitchell Trubisky and the Chicago Bears take on the Jags this week. Then Green Bay, Week 17, although Packers may not need to play their starters by then. I got to say something. I love stories like this. Trubisky, I left for dead, right? He wasn't accurate enough down the field, just not good enough. And when they took him out and benched him in favor of Foles when they had a good record, it was like, oh, it's very early in the season, but Trubisky still wasn't that good. And obviously, famously, Mahomes and Deshaun Watson were both available in that draft, and Trubisky was drafted ahead of both those guys, the best quarterback in football and probably the second best quarterback in the AFC, and Trubisky is not that. Trubisky is like, recently he's been playing like an NFL average starter. That's not a bad thing to have. He's not like all world, but NFL average starter at quarterback is not bad. And I love this story right now because Trubisky got benched and maybe didn't even deserve it, right? For a guy who wound up playing worse than he did. Did he complain one time? This dude didn't complain one time. Take that in contrast to Carson Wentz. Trubisky's number one attribute by far is his speed of foot. He's fast. You could see when he turned pro. This dude can outrun linebackers. But he couldn't throw the ball accurately down the field. Wentz, it seemed, could do everything, right? Anyone want Wentz? You can have him. No one wants him. He ain't going to start anymore. But Trubisky, Look what Wentz did. Oh, if I don't get to start, I don't want to be here. And he leaks this, it seems to me. Because the information came out somehow. It wasn't in the Eagles' best interest to put it out there, devalue him even more, right? He has all this money on his contract. How are you going to get someone to take him? He does that the day of Jalen Hurts' second start when he looked so good in his first start. And by the way, looked good in his second start again. No. Carson Wentz showing that lack of maturity and that lack of leadership is showing you part of what contributed to his downfall. What's Mitch Trubisky showing you? Mitch Trubisky took his benching like a straight-up pro. It's not that he's not competitive. He is competitive. It's that he's a team-first guy. The idea that you need that to be a quarterback and lead, you can't be team-first? No. Well, you should be. He took his benching like a man. He came back better for it. And look at him now. Got the Bears. They're not eliminated yet. Tony in Los Angeles. You're on the Max Kellerman Show, ESPN Radio.
Hey, Max, how's it going? I just wanted to know if you think if Tua and the no-name defense for the Dolphins are still your AFC sleeper pick to go to the Super Bowl, and if you think they're legit and if they're a real team.
As a sleeper, yes. I wouldn't pick them, and now you're starting to see why, right? But I mean, like, no one was picking them. That's why they were my sleeper pick. But I think the number one correlated factor with a successful franchise is the coach. Do you believe Brian Flores off the Belichick coaching tree is a real coach that you would want? I say yes, for obvious reasons. Taking the Dolphins from where they were last year to now. And do you believe Tua can be a franchise quarterback? I think yeah, too. I also think yes. He's coming off catastrophic injury. He's still very young. So, do I think they have a coach-quarterback combination you have to contend with in Miami? Yes, I do. And you brought up the defense. They get after it. So a coach-quarterback combination that's already pretty good with a chance to get better and a real defense. If the Dolphins don't have a top-tier defense, and I think they do, I think I would include the Dolphins in a top-tier defense. It's right underneath that, but I think I would call it a top-tier defense. Can that team be a sleeper? Absolutely. Now, what's the most likely scenario? Maybe the Dolphins win a playoff game. I think they can win a playoff game. But I wouldn't move them off my sleeper in the AFC. I mean, the Bills are not a sleeper at this point, right? Pats are eliminated. Who's a sleeper in the AFC? The Colts or the Titans, they have double-digit wins. They're going to win double-digit wins. Richard in Manhattan, you're on the Max Kellerman Show, ESPN Radio. Richard said, "What's up?" I think, and then hung up. He wanted to talk about the Giants.
See, that's how Giants fans are right now. That's all they got, Max. A couple laughs and.
I got to tell you something. I was so disappointed in the Giants' performance, and the fact is they don't have the talent on the offense. But I brought this up in the recent past. How long do we have to wait for Gettleman's master plan to bear some fruit? Is it next year? Is it in year 3, year 4? Where the Giants could maybe be 500. Dude, it doesn't take that long. I love Saquon Barkley, who's hurt right now. He was drafted number 2 overall. You're not supposed to do that with a running back. They've never truly made the offensive line something to contend with. They've made it competent. There's not a lot of talent on the offense, period. And Daniel Jones, when healthy, is trending in the right direction and is maybe a tick below average. And maybe next year he could be a tick above average. I got to wait 3-4 years for this? News from Max Kellerman Nation. Tony just hit us up on the Dr. Pepper call-in line. Steelers got any shot at all at the number 1 seed in the AFC? Last take is next. Free shipping's great. Free shipping, no minimum. That's the Walmart Plus magic for your holiday. Get all your last-minute shopping done with free next-day or 2-day shipping on a huge selection of eligible items from Walmart.com. With no order minimum, free shipping means the freedom to click that order button to your heart's content. Just another added benefit to your membership. Maybe that's why it's called Walmart Plus. Start your 15-day free trial today at walmart.com/plus. See membership details. The Max Kellerman Show on ESPN Radio, ESPN Plus, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80, and on your smart speaker. You can reach me at 888-SAY-ESPN, 729-3776 for last take in a couple of minutes. But first, the Monday Night Football preview is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Steelers versus Bengals. Steelers still chasing the Chiefs technically for the number 1 AFC seed. It ain't going to happen. But remember, everyone is very low on the Steelers right now. I say buy Steelers. The stock is undervalued. Right now it is. Do not forget, they played 3 games in 13 days. They were on short rest again versus the Bills. That was their 4th game in 19 days. You're supposed to get 28 days. So they more than doubled up. As though you played 2 games in a week and then had a short week. 19 days, 4 games. After that 3-game, 13-day stretch, short week against one of the best teams in the league. They're being undersold right now. The real test for the Steelers will, of course, be against the Browns last game of the season. And the same with the Browns. Before you believe in the Browns, I love what I'm seeing from Baker recently, but before you believe in them, can you beat either the Ravens or the Steelers once this season? They're trending in the right direction, the Browns, even playing the Ravens tough last game. And if they end the season by beating the Steelers, you start to believe in that team. And the Steelers need a quality win before the end of the year. Of course they're going to beat the Bengals. But it's the following week. It's last week of the season. What are the Steelers going to do against the Browns? Of course they're going to beat the Bengals. If the Steelers fall into a trap against the Bengals, I'm done with them. You throw up your hands at a certain point. The Bengals don't have a quarterback right now. They have a great one when he comes back, but they don't have a quarterback right now. And the Steelers have a great defense and a quarterback who can still get it done in Roethlisberger. Steelers can't run the ball, but those quick passes from Roethlisberger sort of simulate a run game. Kind of like, remember what Chip Kelly was doing when he was in Philly? Short little quick passes that kind of simulate a run, and then you take those shots down the field, minus maybe some of the shots down the field. That's what the Steelers are doing to control clock. And they're going to be too much for the Cincinnati Bengals. Brought to you by Progressive Insurance, cars, homes, boats, motorcycles, RVs, and more at Progressive.com.
You heard First Take?
At least it's good to hear your voice finally, because I know on First Take I only hear you on the intro and outro.
Now hear Max's Last Take.
How many takes do you want from me? I've been giving takes all day on First Take, on the Max Kellerman Show. I'll tell you what, Tyrone in Philadelphia, you give me a take, ESPN Radio. Tyrone.
Hey, I was just wondering, Max. The Jets lost their first pick, whatever, but is it really worth it? I mean, wouldn't it be the same thing for Lawrence as it is for Darnold?
No, this is my point about the Jets. I see what you're saying. In other words, once you go to the Jets, they'll ruin you, right? Darnold was a good prospect. I'd say he was a B-plus prospect. Lawrence is an A-plus prospect. Lawrence is one of those talents where you go, and maybe Justin Fields is too. Let's see if that's what they wind up with. But the Jets need a foolproof quarterback. There are very few of them. But Lawrence looks like maybe he'd be one of them because he's going to an organization of fools. So you need a foolproof quarterback. Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes. These guys were going to be great wherever they went. The level of their greatness may have changed based on coaching and situation, but intrinsically they were great. Most quarterbacks don't. Baker Mayfield needs the right situation. Patrick Mahomes benefits from the right situation, but it don't matter what his situation's going to be. You can't ruin Mahomes. That's who Trevor Lawrence looks to be. Maybe that's who Fields is. It's not Bradford. Bradford's nice, but he's not one of those guys. Matt in Illinois, you're on the Max Kellerman Show, ESPN Radio. Matt in Illinois, you're on the Max Kellerman Show, ESPN Radio. Let's try that again.
Yeah, Max, you got me. I fell trapped to your shock jock opinions. I got to come to the defense of Foles and Wentz. For Wentz, he's had 10 different offensive line combinations, and since 19, they've had 12 starting receivers, which leads the league. He's, like you said, a B-plus quarterback, but not an A-plus. When you give him a clean pocket with solid line from and consistent weapons where he can develop consistency, he showed he can be an MVP-type quarterback.
Wentz? Dude, no, look, I was arguing Wentz over Brady in 2017. He was the best quarterback in the league on the money down, on third down. He has regressed so bad, and I've seen it the whole way. Little by little regression. Still capable of making a miracle play a game, but you cannot talk about offensive line combinations when Jalen Hurts comes into the same situation and they catch fire. They beat the Saints, and they very nearly came back yesterday. So why is that? Why does it work for Hurts but not Wentz? Why are they 5-6? Foles comes in, they catch fire, they make the playoffs, but not Wentz? Why, when McCown comes in, do they basically perform the same as with Wentz? Matt in Illinois, why would that be if I'm wrong about Carson Wentz?
I'm trying to ask because without an offensive line, you need a quarterback with more mobility to escape the pocket and escape the pressure, and that's not Wentz. Wentz is a pocket passer like Brady.
What? That doesn't explain Foles, dude. I'm saying, why did it happen with Foles, too?
Foles was the same thing. He beat Brady head-to-head in the Super Bowl, won the MVP. Then when he goes to Jacksonville, breaks his collarbone the first 10 minutes of the first quarter and never got a chance to start
we're talking
again.
about, let's stay with the Eagles. Matt, I like this call.